the one and only Ben Davison, who has seen them all, who has trained them all. He knows a thing or two about putting together a superstar career. He's kind enough to join us right here and now on the program. Hello, Ben. How are you?
Good, thanks, Ariel. How are you?
Pleasure as always to talk to you. Really appreciate the time and appreciate you joining us, especially it's a little late over there. So thank you so much. Congratulations to you and the team on the win on Saturday. Can you be honest with me? I think a lot of people thought your guy Moses would win. Did you think it would be that quick?
I think we knew that it had potential to go that quick, but dependent on how Dillian was going to approach the fight, and it just so happened that he approached the fight in a way that, we thought surely he can't go about it like that, but he did, and it's hard to defend against at the best of times. Um, so yeah, the moment that certain things were happening, Moses was able to process that. He'd worked on certain things that were happening, and he was able to execute.
Gosh, it's mesmerizing watching these highlights. He is such a joy to watch. Can I ask specifically when you talk about, Dillian doing things that maybe you thought he shouldn't have done? What are you referring to?
I'm not going to go into too much detail.
Fair enough.
But I thought he may take a certain type of approach to try and make himself a bit more awkward and get a chance to have a look and just try and maybe slow the fast starter down. But he didn't quite take that approach, and so when people talk about the tendencies that we base our work off of, people often ask me, yeah, but what if the fighter comes out and has a different approach? Well, that's not the type of thing that we look at. We don't look at, oh, he's going to come out on the front foot, or he's going to come out on the back foot, or he's going to sit and wait to counter. The things that we focus on are things that happen no matter how they approach the fight, because then we know in these scenarios they're going to react like this. This is what they're going to do. So those are the type of things on that we look at, and Lee Wiley does a fantastic job every single time putting together the scouting reports. We go away, we take a look at it, we create some drills, and then we just it's just repetition. And Moses, for all the talent that people call it, he's a tremendously hard worker. He loves the sport of boxing, and he's an absolute pleasure to work with because where he's so focused, he's so committed. Anything you ask him to do, he'll go in and try and do. That's what allows him to go in and execute. It's not talent, it's hard work.
So what was so interesting about the buildup was it was almost like a tale of two approaches. Both you and Lee, it has been talked about at length. You love to prepare, you study, you come together, and you have game plans, and you do your homework. And then on the flip side, you had Dillian's head trainer, Buddy McGirt, saying, I've never watched a clip of this guy, which blows my mind when you have a phenom about to stand in front of your guy. How do you not do your homework? Do you believe him? Do you believe him when he says that? Do you believe that they didn't watch anything on Moses heading into the fight? And if so, if you do believe him, how insane is that to do as you're preparing for a fight like Moses?
Yeah, look, Buddy's a very experienced coach. He's been in some massive fights, and he's got his own way of doing things. He's a former two-weight world champion, and perhaps when he was a boxer, he didn't take too many looks at his opponent. So whatever he feels works for him, you know, we like to take our approach that we feel works for us. But Buddy's also had many successful nights as well, and with his approach as well. So
Do you believe him?
I do, yeah, I do
Wow.
believe him, yeah.
When you heard that, were you shocked?
No, because I know a few guys that have worked with him, and it's not the first time that he said that. So yeah.
Okay, fair enough. It was very clear that Dillian was trying to get under Moses' skin a little bit, play some mind games in the build-up to the fight, especially on fight week. Could you tell us, how is he handling everything behind the scenes? He's just 20, biggest opportunity, biggest fight of his life, so much expectation, such a big spotlight. What were you seeing from Moses fight week in Riyadh?
Yeah, it truly is a ultra-orthodox back, you know. I think, again, going back to how much of a hard worker he is and all the ability that he's got on top of that, because there's lots of young fighters that have got ability. But what's allowing him to do what he's doing at such a young age is his emotional maturity, which is so rare. That in itself is something that's spectacular. And that's what's allowing him to do what he's doing at such a young age. in such convincing fashion, and almost, as if he expects it to happen as well. Being 100% honest, he was almost slightly frustrated after the fight on Saturday,
Wow.
because as much as everybody talks about, they want to see him get pushed and get tested, he's putting himself into it in a build up, expecting there to be a certain level of resistance, and when the opponents are not able to do that, I think he almost gets a bit of an anticlimax, to be honest.
So what do you say to him in those moments when he shares that frustration with you after the fight?
I just said to him, look, the performance might have looked easy, but it wasn't easy. You put in a really tough training camp. You put in a hell of a lot of work to put in a performance like that. And in the post-fight press conference, he actually said, I've done a 12-week training camp to go out and put a performance on like that. But it's not, he started boxing at such a young age. It's been 10, 11 years worth of work for him to be able to go out there and deliver the nights and performances that he's delivering at the moment.
Something that always impresses me every time I see him is he doesn't look like a 20-year-old. He doesn't act like a 20-year-old, especially not one who is enjoying all the success. Even in the post-fight interview with Ade, he's not bigging himself up. He's just kind of having fun and taking it all in stride. And I'm wondering if at any moment, are you ever worried? Are you ever afraid? Do you ever have to talk to him about not letting all this get to him? Does it ever sort of seep through and you start to notice the head getting a little big? Does that ever happen with Moses at this stage?
Not so far. I haven't seen anything like that. I think he's very well grounded. He's got a very good family around him. He's always been very grounded, to be honest with you. And I think if there was any signs of that, I think the family would be the first ones to have something to say to him. But there is no signs like that. He's a very well managed young man, as are all of the family. So clearly a representation of the work that their parents have done. And yeah, there's no signs of that, which is great for us to see as well.
I'm not suggesting you do this, but I have seen others suggest it as well. And I would never expect you to do it because you've got great fighters in your stable. But some I've seen say, like, he is such a generational talent. It is so clear that he is such a phenom and he has such a great, successful career ahead of him. 15, 20 years, who knows? The world is his oyster. Ben Davison should drop everyone else and just focus on Moses and just be in the Moses business because this is a once-in-a-lifetime fighter. You're not going to do that, I know. But as a trainer, when you get someone like this, in your grasp, what is that? What is going on in your mind? Like, this is a generational talent. This is a guy who has all the makings of one of the all-time best. And I know there's a long way to go, and we're not trying to put the cart before the horse. But can you describe the excitement, the emotions when you get to go to work with someone like him who's doing so well so early?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I'm just in a fortunate position where I get to do something I love as a job for a living, and every single day we go in, and you know, I wouldn't waste my time. And I work with all the lads in the gym that when we ask them to do something, or we work on something, they're coming in the next day and they're practicing it. Or you ask them to go into their next spar and make sure that you're in this situation. We want to see you reacting like this or doing a little bit more of that. They do that, and that's great for us to see. And again, with Moses, it's very exciting because the passion that he brings, the excitement he's got for it. He wants to get it right, so he wants to get extra reps in. He wants to make sure that it's on point so that the next bar is able to get it off. And he's willing to put himself in uncomfortable situations to practice on certain areas of his game, and that is the enjoyable part. I don't look at the end possible result. I look at that excites me each day. I know he's gonna work on that today, or that thing that we worked on these last few days that got put into practice today. That's exciting. That makes my days enjoyable because that's what it's all about. Not the journey is the destination, as they say. So enjoying it and enjoying it in that manner, I don't think you can ask for anything more. Not for me, anyway.
So you linked up with him around mid 2024 after his eighth pro fight, and he told media last week, The Independent in particular, that linking up with you regained his love for boxing. And it's a bit of a surprising thing to read because he's doing so well. He seemed to be on this trajectory. Where was he at when you first met him? And were you sensing that this was a kid who was falling out of love with something he was so good at?
think there was a lot of change from going from an amateur to a professional. I don't know. I'm guessing here. I'm not putting words in his mouth. I'm saying it from
From your
maybe
perspective. Yeah.
how it may have been. Yeah, I think I think there was a big change for him. I think that he probably felt like he was looking for something he hadn't quite found at that point in terms of himself developing. Can I keep developing? What areas of my game can I work on, etc., etc. So I think once when he came, and I think his eyes got opened a little bit to, oh, actually, there's all of these other areas that I've got lots of improvement I can still continue to make. I'm as good as I am, and he's very aware of how good he is, but I've still got all these areas that can make me even better. I think that drove excitement for him. And I think some of the things about the sport, the business that may have been getting him down, we had a few conversations about that, and I think it might have changed his perspective maybe on how he looks at those things, perhaps. And yeah, I think that may be the reasons why it reignited his excitement for coming into the gym. Is because I could always see he loved it, because the moment we went to show him something, he would go in and practice it. And the moment he went in and practiced it and got it off, I could see that excitement. And he'd go over his spars. And sometimes late at night, I'm an early sleeper, so sometimes late I'd wake up early in the morning, and he would have been texting at 2, 3 in the morning, going over his
Wow.
sparring or watching a fight. Is this more what you want to see? Is this an example of what you want, etc., etc.? And that screams out to me someone that enjoys their job, and that's great, because that makes it a pleasure for us as well.
Okay, so now the big question is, where does he go from here? I mean, we are not wasting any time. Turkey Al Sheikh saying, I want Usyk. He mentioned the likes of Kabayel, Parker. Others have mentioned Bakoli. I mean, these are all the big names. It doesn't get any bigger than this. If it was up to Ben Davison, which direction are you going in with Moses next?
I think one of the things that one of the if we was to the fight that everybody says, oh, it's out of reach, is Oleksandr Usyk,
Yes,
correct?
correct.
If we was to put him into that Usyk fight and he was to lose, if I was to look back on that situation and say, what probably should we have done differently or gave him more of to have stood a better chance in that fight, it would be rounds. And I think we need to find somebody that's able to deliver rounds, because as much as people claim that he's never fought anybody like Usyk, which is correct, I strongly am of the opinion that Usyk has not boxed somebody like Moses either. Somebody with the IQ that could match anybody at any weight. Somebody with the agility, coordination, speed, and power that he has. It, it's a fight that intrigues me, but I think to give him the best of chances, I think rounds is what we're looking for. And yes, of course, these most recent opponents that we've been trying to get, we've been looking to deliver rounds. But we've got a couple of opponents in mind. We're gonna sit down and have a conversation to see where the team are at, and I'm not going to mention any names because I think that can drive the price up. So I don't want to upset Uncle Frank.
Fair enough.
And
Fair enough.
But yeah, there's a couple of opponents in mind. I think rounds is something that we really need to deliver at the minute, and it's going to take. I've got one or two in mind, because if there's any sign of a leaky defense, there's a good chance he's going to take you out, and he's very, very hard to go rounds with, to be in there with, and to last rounds with. So, like I say, I've got one or two in mind, and we'll chat to the team this week and see what's available, and see where they're at as well.
I won't press you on specific names, but the Ring Magazine did come out with their top 10 today as far as the heavyweight division is concerned. Usyk, of course, Fury, Parker, Kabayel, Dubois, AJ, Hergovich, Wardley, Zhang, Bakoli, 10, Moses. Did I mention one of the names? Is the name that you're thinking, did I mention them?
One of them's in there, yeah.
Okay. Would you feel comfortable, as his head trainer, would you feel comfortable if some way, somehow, the stars aligned and it is Usyk next, as Turkey has said? You want your guy to go in there safe, healthy, prepared. Would you feel comfortable with that?
I think we wouldn't be giving him his best chance possible, but I would not be shocked. I wouldn't be like he's in for a chance of winning that fight without a shadow of doubt. Probably he probably has the best chance of anybody to beat Oleksandr Usyk.
Right now?
Yes, of any other heavyweight. There isn't a heavyweight out there, in my opinion, that has a better chance than him of winning that fight.
Wow.
However, I still think there's things that we could deliver to allow him to have even better chances of winning that fight. So, yeah, look, like I say, we'll sit down, and people might say you're mad, but
I love
if
it.
I would explain it like this: there is not another heavyweight on the planet that, if before Saturday was matched up with Dillian White, not one other heavyweight would people have said it's going to be a 2-3 round job for.
Mm.
It turned out to be a 1 round job.
Mm.
And I think that in itself sums up what people truly think. It's hard for them to come out and say, could he? But I don't think there is another heavyweight that has a better chance than him.
Is this happening quicker than you thought when you first linked up with him? Were you expecting in sort of mid 2025, a year or so later, to be in these types of talks, meaning Usyk next potentially?
No, to be honest, the, the possibility of breaking Mike Tyson's record very nearly come about. Very nearly come about. It didn't quite come off, but I was, I thought there's a chance of this coming off here and breaking that record. And once that was done, that fight may have come about. So, like I say, there isn't. Do you know when people mention names, there isn't one heavyweight that I would say, oh, I don't like that for him. Not one. All I'll say is, which is the same for anybody, it's just risk versus reward. That fight's just as hard as that fight, but that fight's got more reward to it. That's it, really.
By the way, why didn't that situation pan out? Meaning him trying to become the youngest heavyweight champion of all time, breaking Tyson's record. Why didn't it work out?
Just there was a situation where some of the belts may have got fragmented and it just didn't quite end up happening because time frames ended up changing, etc. So once time frames changed and it wasn't going to happen before with the opportunity to break the Mike Tyson record,
Okay.
the foot just took off the gas and well, it's no rush now. You know what I mean?
Sure. This time next year, August of 2026, where's Moses in your opinion?
I believe he'll be a world champion.
Undisputed?
We'll see. We'll see. More than capable of. If the opportunities and the stars align, yes, he will be.
Okay, wow. Can't wait to see how that plays out. I do want to ask you about some of your other fighters, namely Anthony Joshua. It's heating up, this Jake Paul stuff, and I know you've been asked about it a little bit. For our audience, are you in favor of this? Would you be comfortable with AJ fighting Jake Paul, given the discrepancy in resumes, let's just say, in experience?
Yeah, I just think like my opinion is this on it. Francis Ngannou was more qualified after his fight with Tyson Fury to box Anthony Joshua. That being him being one of the most durable men on the planet. And we saw what happened there. I think for Jake Paul to go in against Anthony Joshua, it, you know, just picture that situation. What we saw against Francis Ngannou, and then picture Francis Ngannou versus Jake Paul, even just from a physical standpoint in itself. But there's talk of Jake's more qualified than Ngannou based off of Francis Ngannou has the better boxing performance out of those two guys, hands down with the Tyson Fury fight. So I believe Francis Ngannou was more qualified, better equipped physically, and that still happened what happened. So yeah, make of that what you will, I think.
Could I ask who you would like to see AJ fight next when he returns?
I think the world of boxing's always wanted to see the Fury fights, but um, you know, whatever really. I think his goal is to become a world champion or to do the Fury fight again, and or sorry, to become a world champion again, or to do the Fury fight. So yeah, look, I don't know. I don't know what the right next step is or when that step is. I know that there's a lot of talk of this Jake Paul stuff, but yeah, I suppose we'll see.
Do you think we see him again this year, or is the clock running out on that?
Mm, possibly towards the back end of the year, maybe early start of next year, maybe.
Okay. By the way, since you did obviously fight Francis and study him, he told me yesterday he really wants Deontay next. How do you think that plays out, Deontay Wilder versus Francis Ngannou?
It's hard to say because I don't know how Deontay. Do you know when people ask how do I see this fight going? How do I see
Yeah.
that fight going? It often depends on the approach. And if I've seen enough of the boxer, I can go, against that style. I typically think he'll approach the fight like this. But with Deontay Wilder, I don't know where he's at. He's not what he was, obviously. So, and after those losses that he's had, that may, or I think it will be an honest, impact his approach to the fight. And so therefore, I don't actually know how he would approach it. I mean, he's very explosive, very dangerous from a low, Deontay Wilder. Almost lull you to sleep, explosive, quick 1-2, which I think Francis would struggle to defend against. But if Deontay goes into that fight too concerned about what's coming back and too defensively minded, I think he could get run through, to be honest with you.
Wow.
He would have to be committed, ballsy, and confident to execute. And I don't think Deontay Wilder is capable of taking the same approach as Anthony Joshua to set up those situations. But then again, Francis Ngannou defensively, I think, could struggle if Deontay Wilder is confident and committed. He's very explosive. But yeah, I don't know. It depends on how the guys approach. But it is a fight that would intrigue me, if I'm honest.
Yes, certainly two heavy hitters. I'll ask you one more. You've got a great stable of guys. Shout out to Alois Jr. as well, doing big things. Seems to be on his way as a cruiserweight. I do want to ask you, the Fabio Wardley knockout of Justice Hooney, as far as an experience as a trainer is concerned, have you ever experienced a range of emotions like that before? Because it's like we saw Eddie in the corner. It seemed like things were not going well until they went spectacularly well in his favor. A, I'm just curious what's going through your mind as you're witnessing this. Take that left turn. And B, when do we think that we will see Fabio back and against who?
Fabio's going to have some news really soon. And in terms of have I
Okay.
been through those emotions, unfortunately, I have. I don't know if you remember, but I was part of Lee Wood versus Mick
Oh,
Conklin
yes,
as
of
well.
course. Nottingham Zone. Yes, of course. That was incredible. Yes.
Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder, the first fight. So yeah, I've had a few dramatic.
You're 32, but really, as far as those experiences are concerned, perhaps maybe like 60 boxing
Yeah,
has turned.
and I think it's starting to show as well.
Well, it's all working out. It's lovely to see, especially the work that you're doing with Moses. Both you and Lee doing an incredible job getting your flowers. My condolences to Lee's family. I know he lost his mother recently,
That's
and
right.
so
Yeah,
if he is out there watching, my condolences to him. I know it was very
really
tough.
appreciate that.
As a
Thank you.
as a mama's boy, I feel for him, and just want to say congratulations to you and the entire team. Huge fan of what Moses is doing, what you're doing with him, and it's great to see. So congratulations on all the success. Thanks for staying up late. You mentioned you're an early sleeper there, so it made me feel bad that you are up at
No,
10:30.
no problem.
So thank you so much, Ben. All the best, and we'll talk to you soon.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
The great Ben Davison joining us. What a stable he has. He trains his squad over at the Ben Davison Performance Center in beautiful Essex. Both he and Lee known to be two of the very best in terms of game planning, research, preparation. They do it all. And they took the Ngannou fight with AJ very seriously. They did not dismiss him. And so when you hear Buddy McGirt say before that fight, as White's trainer, yeah, I'm not going to watch anything. What do you mean you're not going to watch anything? Nothing? You're not going to do anything? No prep whatsoever on this guy? He's a phenom, once-in-a-lifetime, 20-year-old sensation. The juxtaposition of the two approaches was very glaring, in my opinion. You see how it all plays out.